For this project, you actually have a real client. This real client is an 80-year-old man who builds car engines out of his garage just maybe 2 miles from here. He currently holds the record for Lakesters. He's seventh. He holds multiple land speed records, and he's seventh in the world for this Lakester class race car. This is the car that we are going to do branding for. The main thing that we're looking at doing is coming up with a new logo, because right now their name is Ardrima Braun. It's the two people, Pete Ardrima and Kevin Braun, who make these homemade engines and have for years. And they race on the Bonneville Salt Flats, as well as other places around California and in the West. Right now, their team name is just block letters. Their number, which is showing their rank in the world, is just a circle with a 7 in it. They've got the name of their car, which is a Lakester. That's the type of car. And then they have on both sides of the cockpit, they have the driver's names. We're going to design all of those pieces. And we essentially have this entire area of the car that we can work with. Your goal is to come up with two different possible logos for their team name and number, and then two possible layouts for the entire car. And we'll do a mock-up of this in Photoshop, and I'll provide that to you. We can also potentially have them bring the car here, or at least we could go over there and see it. He might even be able to bring in panels from the car into the classroom to do this. So it's going to be somewhat interactive as far as you working with the client. Now, one of the key things when you're working with a client is when we ask them for information, we really want to make sure that we review over all of it and try to understand what it is that they're asking for, as well as take notes so that we can review it together before meeting with them again. Now, the first thing that's here that they gave us was this land speed car requirements and photography. So with this, he has a Word document that goes through and talks about what the different pieces of the car are, what the labels are, what the colors mean, and examples of the vehicle itself. Hopefully this won't take too long to load. There we go. So what you can do is you can look to see, it explains that they all have a number on the side, the classification. This is the example of what the car looks like right now, and then showing what these different things represent. These are some sponsors that they have, so we can potentially move the location of those if we really wanted to. But for this first wave of work with this company, we're primarily focusing on these pieces here and the driver pieces that'll be on both sides. Now, there's other examples of the car, and I have these photos in a Google Drive that you'll have access to. The other piece is he's included a link here of other cars that he likes, but these are ones that are fully painted, which they're not ready to do a full paint job on the car yet. So we're going to focus primarily on doing kind of a sticker decal of their team name and the number and figure out how it would look best on the car. And we can do that part with the mock-up using Photoshop. What you're going to need to do to start with this is you're going to start with creating a Google Doc. This is going to be your area to keep notes. So what I want you to do is open up a Google Doc, read through these pieces, and then type in any questions you might have. This will help us when we actually meet with the client. He may actually come into our class, depending on the day and time, to go over some of the stuff or look at some of your work as we do this. Now, before you get really heavy into doing design work in Illustrator, what I need you to do is you need to watch and read this short article. This is about the car. It's a really short article about what Lakesters are. And then here's an article about the Bonneville Speed Flats. Or the Bonneville Salt Flats, and this is when they do Speed Week. I kind of typoed there. And then watch this short video that they produced that kind of shows them at one of the races where they beat a 44-year-old record. After you've done that, you're going to actually start doing our standard stuff. You're going to create a Pinterest board. You're going to create a creative matrix, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail. You're going to do 7 to 10 thumbnails of the logo and 7 to 10 thumbnails of what could the race team number look like. And then from Illustrator, you're going to develop 2 of those logos and 2 of those race team numbers. And make sure you make multiple color variations and font variations with that. And you'll be submitting that for feedback. I might actually even include the videographer who does all of the videos for them to come in and take a look at those. Or we may be able to Zoom with him, or I may be able to just package them together and give them to him for him to give you feedback. Then we'll work on creating the mock-up. The mock-up will be a Photoshop version of the car, and it'll be your chance to kind of stick the logos on the car and place them where you think they would look best. We might even be able to play around with some of the color of the car too, just to kind of maybe incentivize them to say, hey, this would look awesome if you painted it this way. So we'll see what kind of time we have. And then once you're done with all of that, you'll be submitting your 2 logos and numbers and your 2 car mock-ups, different versions of how you would lay them out. And you'll be submitting all of those to me in the appropriate week. Now, here are some of the resources I've given you. This link here will give you all of the photos that are here. I'll also be providing you with a mock-up. I'm going to start creating something using the side of the car. And then if you want to look at other videos that they've produced, here is the link to their YouTube channel. And then I've got this one, doesn't mean you have to necessarily follow this, but this is a tutorial that goes through and creates several different kind of traditional race car logos. Yours does not have to look like that, but this guy is an older guy, so maybe doing something that has kind of a cool but somewhat retro feel might be more appropriate, but we'll kind of see what he thinks afterwards. So this is a really exciting opportunity for you to actually see your work used by a client. They want to do stuff with their trailer. They want to do stuff with their truck. And the next race that they have is in Victorville, and I believe it's in May. And they're going to videotape the whole thing and put stuff on YouTube. So we may actually be able to see your logo on the side of the car when it's racing before the end of this year.